So I was thinking back on the results we got with the first round of benchmarks, and we arrived at the conclusion that the old model ST-251 essentially performed the same as the newer model ST-251, even though the newer model was supposed to be a faster drive. Well, I thought maybe the performance bottleneck was our 4.77 megahertz power system, so I thought maybe we should give these a benchmark on a faster system. And let's do that and see how they look that way. On the bench today I have the 386 SX40, and attached to the end of this ribbon cable spaghetti, or lasagna noodles as it might be, is our ST-251-1. This is the Everex branded OEM drive, and we will be running it with this 16-bit Western Digital RLL controller. So after a low-level format, we did turn up a lot of problems up here in the high tracks, but the lower 50% of this drive would be perfectly usable, and it is plenty good enough for our tests today. So a quick run at the benchmarks here in SpinRite, and we do see that this drive is a lot quicker than it was in the first go-around. Take note of our full stroke time here of 53 milliseconds, and 5 milliseconds on the track-to-track. Looks pretty quick. I'm setting up the ST-251 original drive to get ready for the benchmarks, and I wanted to show you the low-level utility that's available on the Western Digital controller. And I have a floppy here we're running on with debug, and the magic line for this one is G equals CC00:5. And that gets us to a nice menu-operated Western Digital setup utility. This one is available on the ROM there on the controller. And first we have to set the drive parameters. And I know that this one is a type 10. So that gets us the 820 cylinders, 6 heads with a sectors per track of 26. That is the equivalent of a Seagate ST-277R, since we're using the RLL controller. And it will reboot. We'll go for the ride here on the reboot. And then we can begin the low-level format once we get back to the debug prompt. So we had to wait there just a little bit for the drive to time out for initialization. The controller doesn't know quite what to do with it yet since there's no format on there. But we're going to head into debug and we're going to get that low-level format going. So, low-level format number 2. Low-level format will erase all your files. Oh no, all those files. Are you sure? Yes. And double check the parameters appear correct. Here we go. And when that low level format is completed, it drops us right back to the menu. I'm going to exit, and from here we'll reboot again using the old Control-Alt-Delete. This time much quicker. We don't have to wait for the controller to realize that it doesn't know what to do with the drive, because now it does. Things are looking pretty good here. Alright, we should be ready for F-disk. And this will allow us to create the DOS partition on the drive. Create primary DOS partition. We will use all of the space. Reboot yet again. And then we should be able to go ahead and format it, and we should be able to see what capacity we get out of this thing. Should be about 65 megabytes if everything works out with the RLL format. So a quick boot here from the floppy on the 386. We're going to format C: with the S switch. That should make this drive bootable for us. Wow, that seemed like a really happy format. We got, well, it says 62.37 megs was the format. And we see the capacity there. This looks really good, so I want to get a look at it in SpinRite. Looking at the quick surface analysis here in SpinRite, it certainly appears that this drive has taken much better to the RLL format than the 251-1 drive did. One minor spot here you can see on this drive, and that spot is known about. I have picked up a minor bad spot here with other controllers, although on the ST-11M controller with MFM format, this drive doesn't pick up any bad spots at all. So yeah, good performance out of this thing so far. I want to get it onto the speed test here. Let's see what our seek times turn out to be. You can hear the sounds that this drive makes. It is just incredible. And there's our times. We have 5.2 millisecond track to track, which I think was comparable to the Dash 1. Full stroke time coming in at 87 milliseconds, and our random seek at 31, right where we would expect it to be. So yeah, good results so far coming out of this drive. A look at it on the Seagate benchmark, and we see here a transfer speed of 403.9 K per second, and our track seek times coming in right about where we would expect them. No major difference here. But I went ahead and ran our SimCity launch test, so we collect the time on that, and again for our directory copy test, just like we did in the first round of benchmarks. And then of course I had to go back and repeat the same tests on the original ST-251-1. And again our SimCity launch test and the directory copy test for that drive. And with those results captured, let's go take a look at our spreadsheet and see how these stacked up. Well everyone, this is quite interesting. And the results are that essentially we've achieved the same thing as in the first benchmarks. Here, I'll scroll up in our spreadsheet and you can see the results here of the first tests. And here we are with the second set of tests. And again, we see that the original model, ST-251, performs better in the track-to-track seek times. And we do see, again, a pretty significant difference, about the same margin in the full stroke time here between the two models. But really, the real-world performances, the old model drive still ekes out the win by fractions of a second. But I think that's pretty remarkable. The old drive seems to have performance on par with the new model drive, the Dash 1. And I find that pretty incredible. In fact, if you had an application requiring sequential data access, and you were requiring sequential reads as the primary performance characteristic, well, I would have to pick the old drive. The old model drive does much better on the sequential track-to-track than the new model does. So, yeah, very interesting results here, and I think we've pretty much figured out that essentially these drives are the same. Well, Okay, everyone, thanks for coming along on these benchmarks. If there is anything else you can think of that I should try or maybe do with these drives, let me know. Drop your comments down below here on the video, and I'll be willing to keep going at these drives here to see if we can figure out which ways the performance here might be better on the Dash 1 model. But so far, I think you see the results. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.